Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends, and thanks to today's presenting sponsor, the Coffee Consultants Mastermind Group by Mapper Forward. If you're considering becoming a consultant in the coffee industry, or you already are a consultant in the coffee industry and are looking to grow a business, consider joining the Coffee Consultants Mastermind Group and join other consultants. It's a small group, but it's a fabulous group. And build your business today. Check the show notes for links to join today. Today on the podcast, we are going to have a discussion about inflation and what if inflation gets out of control. In February last year, on this podcast, it may have even been late January, we started to talk about this thing called coronavirus. And at that time, people were saying to me, Lee, you're being alarmist. Lee, you're out of your mind. Lee, this isn't going to be a thing. You're crazy, etc., etc. We know how that played out. The reason I was talking about the pandemic or coronavirus so early is not because I have some witchy kind of crystal ball that I look into and say, this is going to be a thing. It's not about that. It's about looking at things objectively and deciding whether things are out of sync, seeing where this could go. And at that time, all of the pieces were indicating that we weren't doing enough. By we, I mean the leaders who were responsible. Humanity wasn't doing enough to restrain the potentiality of an outbreak. And just logically, you could see that this was going to be a thing. Later on, I went on to use the analogy of the dragon is coming, to describe what it felt like when we were telling people on this podcast, we're saying, listen, guys, get ready. This is not going to bode well for the world. And the analogy that we used was someone standing there saying, hey guys, look, the dragon's coming, the dragon's coming, the dragon's coming. And, some people could see the dragon coming from a mile away or many miles away. And people were saying, this person's crazy. There's no dragon. Dragons don't exist. And the person turned around and said, hey guys, it's getting closer. The dragon really is there. And then some people started taking notice, but not a lot. And then eventually the dragon lands on the cliff, breathes fire on the village, destroys the village, and then everybody's looking at the person who's warning everybody that the dragon's coming and saying, well, what do we do now? A dragon's here. And so, I'm saying it again. The dragon is coming, the dragon is coming, the dragon is coming. And I will cop a lot of shit for this yet again, but I'm doing it anyway. There are some key indicators in the market, and I hope to hell I am wrong. Like I said in the last episode, I hope I am wrong in ways that I've never been wrong before. This is the one thing in my life that I hope that I will be known to be wrong for. But there are a lot of indicators that are coming through that are telling us that inflation is here, and that if it continues on the trajectory that it's on, could prove to have serious and severe implications for the worldwide economy for around a decade. And what some of those indicators are is the commodity prices are out of control right now. And that's happening on one side. And on the other side, you've got governments denying that inflation is a real thing. That's just one part of the scenario. On the other side of things, you've got governments printing exorbitant numbers of money out of thin air. And we haven't seen any ramification of that yet. There's been no correction yet. You can't just print money out of nowhere and expect there to be no consequence to that. It's just not how economics works. At the cornerstone of this problem is supply and demand, which is what economics is built off. Right now, in a number of different sectors, we have demand going out of control, particularly things like the housing sector, the automotive sector, and the commodities sectors. And because demand is out of control, supply has to try and keep up with that. And because demand is so high and supply is limited, the price relative to demand is going up. Not just for the houses and the cars, but for the raw materials like steel and lumber and other raw materials that go, iron ore, etc., that go into those things. Those prices are skyrocketing. But they're skyrocketing to a point where only people who are willing to overextend themselves more than they normally would are able to pay for them. So that automatically eliminates a part of the population. And that goes into extending the wealth gap, etc., and that's not what this episode's about. But what we have now is real key indicators that things are about to misstep in the economy. You add to that the workforce is struggling right now. And what I mean by that is not just in our industry, but in industries across most sectors, it is difficult to find people to fill jobs. So we have heavy reliance on social security systems right now because they're paying people more than what minimum wages would normally be. Sorry, let me say that in a different way. Our social security systems are paying people more than what they would normally get in their minimum wage jobs. That's what I wanted to say. And because of that, when companies like Amazon and Walmart and the similar companies in countries that don't have those businesses start hiring, what you start to find is that they are big winners from the pandemic. So they have the funds to increase their own minimum wages internally. And small business cannot compete in such a competitive market for employees. So on top of the increase in raw materials, the increase in property prices and vehicles, you have this increase in pay rates as well as the competitiveness of trying to fill the jobs. Now, there is example after example after example of people having to close their doors either half the day or a few days a week because they cannot find staff in the hospitality industry to man their businesses, to work in their businesses. And what this will do long time is decrease revenue, which decreases your profit margins, because you still have to pay rent for the days that you're closed and for the hours that you're closed. Now, if this just happens for a blip and governments figure out how they can create some form of correction, then we're all gravy, as we say here in Australia. That means we're all good. But none of the indicators are showing that governments are going to do that. They'll certainly work hard at it. But I can't yet see, and a lot of the people that I'm speaking to can't yet see how governments are going to be able to sidestep this. Every single economist I have spoken to, and I've spoken to many, every single economist I have spoken to has said to me, when I ask them, how does this work out? The answer is, we've never seen this before. We don't know what comes next. So when economists are saying, we've never seen this before, we don't know what happens, we don't know if we're going into hyperinflation, we don't know if we're going into just a second of inflation, then everything's going to be fine. We don't know if what we're about to see is a boom for the next 20 years. We don't know. What we do need to do is recognize that there's a dragon coming. And we hope that the dragon comes and flies right over and keeps moving. But if you are drunk on recovery right now, as we spoke about in a previous episode, if you are drunk on recovery, you will not pay attention to the fact that there is a very real dragon coming. The thing that we don't know at this point is this dragon landing to burn down our village, or is this dragon going to just continue flying over? And if the economists have no idea what happens now, we should be considering how we as an industry, we as small business owners, we as professionals, how do we move forward with all the possible outcomes that could be presented in this? I suspect we have some challenging decisions ahead of us. Being drunk on recovery, as we spoke about in a previous episode, is going to distract you from being ready for what's coming. I'm not saying don't consider that the times ahead could be super happy. I'm not going to be focusing on that personally, because I don't think that a boom for the next 20 years is what's in our future. But I could very well be wrong. What I am saying is, think of what and how you can be ready for a major financial economic collapse and what that will mean to your business. If you need help with that, join the mastermind groups. That is a massive focus of how we're getting everybody ready right now. If you want to be around those discussions, if you want help with how you prepare your business and how you dissect your profit and loss statement to get that happening, join a mastermind group. Contact us. If you want one-on-one consulting, we can help with that. If you need HR help with that, we have consultants that can help you with your HR situations. How do you get employees ready for this? What do you do with your hiring and your employee situation if the economy tanks? But start thinking about it, please, because the dragon is coming. And we want to be ready. We want to be ready whether the dragon flies over or whether the dragon shows up and burns down the village again. Because not being ready is going to lead to even worse ramifications. We've got this. We will be fine if we prepare. But we have to go through the work of preparing. And if you need help, we're here. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.